Broadcasting from the ARN Racing Studios in Southern California, ARN Los Angeles. This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
Matt Kenseth is now to go for Jeff Johnson. Looks held low. Bush up high. Here they come.
Gentlemen, start your engine! It's Monday, July 7th, 2014. Coming up today on the Pit Pass, Brian France gives his State of the Union address, so to speak, for NASCAR, talking about Cup drivers in lower series, the 2015 schedule, plus the new chase and future changes. Plus, Robin Pemberton talks about his decision to end the race early after rain opened up. And oh, by the way, Eric Almirola, Richard Petty back in victory lane in Daytona. And NASCAR has a union. This can only mean trouble on the Pit Pass.
Get ready. Stay ready.
Wrap in. And hold on.
Stay ready. Stay ready.
We're getting the green. Starting right
Ready.
now.
How we need to do it, boys. That was awesome. Yeah. We're either going to get them or we're going to wreck. 4 times, I'm a little upset. Dude, I left the room. What the hell? Pisses me off so much. You have no idea. That was a bull.
You never quit. This is how you're going to win a championship. You never quit.
Therefore, we're going to keep scratching off that bucket list for you, buddy.
Stay in it. Wide open. Come on. Come on, baby. How about that, boys?
You're awesome.
This is the Pit Pass, your personal pass to everything NASCAR. Live from the Pit Pass Racing Studios in Southern California. Here's your host, Alan Bailey.
It was wet, it was wild, it was controversial, and oh, by the way, a lot of coincidence, which has you flying those black helicopters over NASCAR headquarters with the conspiracy theories. Welcome on into the Pit Pass, your personal pass for everything NASCAR, right here on ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I'm Alan Bailey. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Alan Bailey. Use the hashtag ARNRace to get in on this conversation as well. Lots of interesting tweets, lots of interesting emails with the conspiracy theory and the fact that NASCAR pulled the plug on the race, which, by the way, which was supposed to happen on Saturday, but ended up happening on Sunday morning. The race got called around 2:30, 3 o'clock local time, when, oh, by the way, that racetrack does, in fact, have lights, and it just was calamity and chaos ensuing on Twitter and online with the conspiracy theories after that one. But nevertheless, our hot topics are this: the fact that Eric Almirola was leading when NASCAR decided to call the race just a little ways past halfway out in Daytona yesterday, which means that, yes, Eric Almirola qualifying for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series chase in 2014 with the victory in the Coca-Cola 400, or excuse me, the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona over this last weekend. It also brought up a lot of questions. The fact that Eric Almirola, which, by the way, is a native of Florida, which, oh, by the way, was born on an Air Force base in Florida, which, oh, by the way, was sponsored by the Air Force over the weekend, which, oh, by the way, won in Richard Petty's number 43 car, which, oh, by the way, was celebrating its 30th year anniversary of Richard Petty's victory, his 200th career victory at Daytona in that 1984 Firecracker 400, which, oh, by the way, Richard Petty wasn't even at the racetrack. He left early. And oh, by the way, all of this just happened to be one giant coincidence according to the internet and NASCAR's logic. But alas, Robin Pemberton explained after why exactly they decided to call the race when they did.
Not necessarily. I mean, we watched, we battled, we had several red flags, and you know, we battled the weather throughout the day. And that last bit when we really lost the race, the entire racetrack got washed out, and we looked at forecasts of a, you know, potential at least a few more hours of rain. We decided to, you know, we were past halfway and just called the race.
Did you call it because you felt that fans wouldn't want to stay and watch? Was it because TV probably won't want to wait that long? Was it because you just
the
felt
potential to it was all of the things. You know, we've had rain for 2 days. We've seen this weather pattern, and you know, we felt it was the best interest that fans getting done and going home, competitors being done, and you know, we put on a couple, you know, two and a half hours or so of solid racing, and when you looked at what was in front of us weather-wise, we felt it was just best for all concerned that the race was concluded.
interesting theory from Robin Pemberton right there on NASCAR's reasoning to call the race. The fact that the track itself only had 13 cars on the lead lap, with none of which being the quote-unquote big superstars with names like Earnhardt, Stewart, Gordon, Edwards, and more crashing out in the first two quote-unquote big ones. I don't know. Very suspicious. We'll get into it a little bit more later on in the program. And a lot of interesting sound coming out of Daytona on Saturday before the scheduled start of the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona. Brian France, NASCAR chairman and CEO, stepped into the media center to give us the mid-season report card. And yes, it got a little interesting at times, but the thing that stuck out to us was this: the 2015 schedule. What exact changes are being made in that schedule? Which race will house that final race in 2015? Let Brian France tell you.
It's a unique time because we're starting with a new television partner coming obviously next year. There's been some weather issues, as you well know, in the last several years at Bristol, as an example. And then some other things that we would naturally look at as we go along in the schedule. And now that the chase format is changed, there's additional interest to move from one place to another. So there'll be a robust discussion that will be, for those reasons, a more comprehensive look at what the best schedule will look like. I don't have any of the details today. We'll be releasing that in September, but it's fair to say that there's a robust discussion within the stakeholders to come up with the best schedule that we can for 2015 and beyond.
More from Brian France, NASCAR chairman and CEO, later on in the program from his lengthy discussion with the media in Daytona on Saturday. And NASCAR team owners in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series dropping an unexpected bombshell throughout the garage area earlier today. The fact that NASCAR's 9 most powerful teams have formed the Race Team Alliance, or ATL for short, a business association intended to increase revenues and budget efficiency for NASCAR Sprint Cup Series organization. The RTA is comprised of Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Avadas, with Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Michael Waltrip Racing, Richard Petty Racing, Richard Childress Racing, also Roush Fenway Racing, Stuart Haas Racing, and Team Penske, and it intends to open its memberships to all teams in NASCAR's Premier Series. In the release that was released by the organization, the intent of the organization is to, quote, create for the first time a single entry to engage with stakeholders to create ways to market and experience the power of the sports teams and drivers. As part of its focus, the RTA also plans to explore and innovate ways to harness the combined purchasing powers of the scale of the team's operations to drive efficiency in costs, unquote. A lot more on this developing story later on in this program, and a lot of discussion on it as well. NASCAR issuing a statement as to what they have to say about NASCAR's new owners membership, RTA, saying in a release, quote, we are aware of the alliance concept that the team owners have announced, but we have very few specifics on its structure or purpose. It is apparently still in development, and we are learning about the details, so it would be inappropriate to comment right now. NASCAR's mission is and has always been to create fair play, a fair playing field where anyone can come and compete. Our job is to support and strengthen all of the teams, large and small, across all of our series, and we'll continue to do that. NASCAR is a unique community of hundreds of stakeholders, and they all have a voice and always will, unquote. That one coming from NASCAR Vice President and Chief Communications Officer Brett Jenkels. We'll have more on this later on in the program, I assure you. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and step aside. When we return, we will talk about NASCAR's new union, quote-unquote, and the 2 previous unions that have, quote-unquote, failed in the past. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to the Pit Pass, your personal pass to everything NASCAR, brought to you by our friends at Apollo Aesthetics. If you're looking for a brand new website, don't go anywhere else. Don't build it for free. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com where they can build you a brand new website. They can do it quick, help you set up email accounts, and oh, by the way, they can also help you set up all the social media accounts, hosting, logo design, and a whole lot more that those free website builders can't. It's Apollo Aesthetics and apolloaesthetics.com.
This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
In today's day and age where every phone has a camera in it, everybody thinks they're a photographer. Whether they're putting stuff online on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, they think they know what they're doing. But when it comes to hiring a professional photographer, you need someone with years of experience and the professional equipment that is necessary in order to capture a professional shot. Not a smartphone with some filter on Instagram. You need a professional with years of experience and photoshopping skills. There's only one place to go, and that's Self-Destruct Photography. Log on to facebook.com/self-destruct photography in order to check out their portfolio of work, plus get in contact with them to set up a date for your photo shoot. Whether you're looking to get some 8x10s done if you're an actor or professional, or if you're looking to get some family photos done to capture a moment forever, or if you need to get some graduation photos done that didn't turn out so great the first time around, or even if you're getting married, call my man Scott because he'll set you up. That's Self-Destruct Photography. Don't miss your shot with Scott. Do you have the next big idea or the next product to sell online? Don't know where to begin? Well, it's very simple. ApolloAesthetics.com. They'll not only help build your website for you, for your company, but they'll also help get you involved on social media and help get ads placed on Google. What you do is log on to ApolloAesthetics.com where you can request a quote to build your brand new website right now. They'll help set up email and hosting for you as well. That's Apollo Aesthetics and ApolloAesthetics.com.
The odds of having a boy who grows up loving baseball,
1 in 6.
Which earns him a college scholarship,
1 in 2,500.
That gets him a contract in the minors,
1 in 3,700.
Which leads to starting shortstop in the majors,
1 in 290,000.
The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism,
1 in 150. You know the odds. Now learn the signs. Go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Shifting gears.
John Force might actually be a cyborg. Let me explain. The guy is insane. He won his 140th Wally recently. He's got 16 World Funny Car Championships to his credit. And oh, by the way, he is 65 years old. Are you kidding me? John, seriously, what's in your Wheaties in the morning? Give me some of that.
Shifting gears. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on ARN.
Live from the Pit Pass Racing Studios in Southern California. Once again, Alan Bailey.
A lot of interesting reactions to NASCAR's new, I don't want to call it a union because technically it's not. And let me explain why. And if you didn't hear the news, NASCAR Cup Series owners announcing 9 Cup Series organizations actually announcing today that they have formed a collaborative business association called the Race Team Alliance, or RTA for short. The purpose of the organization, according to a release by the RTA, is to create an open forum for the teams to explore areas of common interest and to work collaboratively on initiatives to help preserve, promote, and grow the sport of stock car racing. The organization intends to open up its membership to all full-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series teams in the very near future. The following teams are in this organization: Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates, Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Michael Waltrip Racing, Richard Childress Racing, Richard Petty Motorsports, Roush Fenway Racing, Stewart Haas Racing, and Team Penske. Essentially, the big teams that have all of the money, control a majority of the money and the cars and the sponsorships in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series competition. There's a handful of other teams that aren't in it. Yes. However, the big teams that have a lot of the big money behind them are involved in this. This is where everything gets interesting. And oh, by the way, the chair the very first chairman of the RTA is Robert Kaufman, who's the co-owner of Michael Waltrip Racing. He was on NASCAR America actually earlier today talking about this, and he brought up an excellent point, saying that this is not a union. A union is somebody who works for a specific company, a group of workers who work for a specific company who basically come together and form a union. They unite. The workers of a specific company unite together for a common goal or cause. NASCAR does not employ these race teams. You look at Chip Ganassi Racing, you look at Michael Waltrip Racing, Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, Team Penske, all of them. They are all independent businesses that just so happen to compete for another organization or who do business with another organization. Essentially, it's kind of like, and this is a very gross oversimplification of what it is, but NASCAR's like your local Chevy dealer. And Chip Ganassi's a guy who buys cars from that Chevy dealer, and so's Hendrick Motorsports, and so's Joe Gibbs, and so's Michael Waltrip, and Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, and Penske. They all buy cars or get their cars serviced at this local Chevy dealer or Ford dealer or Dodge or Toyota. It doesn't matter for this metaphor. And basically, they're all coming together saying, well, we want to have faster service. Well, we want to have this from our local dealer. Well, we want to have that. Well, we want this. We want that. It's basically these team owners coming together to try to save themselves money. That's what it basically boils down to. They're an association by definition. He said on NASCAR America on CNBC that basically this is going to be a not-for-profit organization, which would make sense. They're not making money. They didn't form this because they want more money from their teams or from their workers or anything of that nature. They basically want to try to cut costs down amongst themselves as much as possible. Now, maybe that'll entail in the near future, and this is pure speculation on my part, so don't think that I have some insider information on this or anything of that nature, because I don't. Frankly, I was baffled this morning when I got that press release sent to me from this new email address. I got it in my inbox this morning at 9 o'clock local time here in California, and I kind of went, whoa! Okay. Where did this come from? It was totally out of left field. But what this alliance and what this association could basically mean for NASCAR owners, let's just say you have your pit crewmen. And to be clear, this is how most Cup Series owners do it. This is how most of them do it. They basically fly out their over-the-wall pit crew that service the car on Sunday, the guys who jump out over the wall, those guys, they fly them out race morning. They get to the track hours before the race starts. They rest, they get prepped, they get ready to go, they do their job, and then once the race is over, they help pack up for a little bit, and then whoop, back on the team plane, and they fly home. It's a one-day turnaround for those guys. Maybe, let's just say, instead of Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs, Michael Waltrip, Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, Team Penske, and Chip Ganassi, instead of sending 9 planes with all of the pit crewmen, maybe Hendrick Motorsports will pick up the tab this week, and maybe they'll just get one giant plane for all these pit crewmen and fly them all out one weekend. And then the next weekend it's Joe Gibbs Racing turn. Then the next weekend it's Michael Waltrip. And then the next weekend it's Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush, Stuart Haas, Penske, Chip Ganassi, so on and so forth. That's a possibility. That would not really save money in the long run, but it kind of would in some sense because, well, you're using one plane with one fuel load, although you're burning more fuel because of the weight of the extra people. It's a lower cost in the long run. Maybe that's something that NASCAR team owners will look into. Maybe they'll approach NASCAR and say, hey, we kind of like more races in this part of the country at this time, in this part of the country at that time, to help with our quarter, to help with our budget, to help with this, to help with that, whatever. Who knows? This, and NASCAR said it best. We don't know what this is. NASCAR was made aware of this roughly a month ago, and really it's just been one giant, okay, what do you want to do? What's the point? Who are you servicing? Who are you trying to make it better? What's the point of this? What's going on? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? It just has become one gigantic question mark. And this has happened before. Something like this has happened before. You go back to 1969, the drivers tried to unionize. This time they called it the Professional Drivers Association, and the PDF was led by Richard Petty, one of the sport's biggest stars at the time. Prior to the inaugural race of what is now known as the Talladega Superspeedway, the PDA tried to get the race postponed. They were afraid, basically. They had tire issues. They were alarmed at the high speeds. They were alarmed at the fact that they were going 200 miles an hour with no safer barriers, no Hans devices, very relaxed set of rules, let's just say, when it came to the car safety. So they basically said in a letter issued on September 18th, 1969, our members are race car drivers first and accept the risks involved. But when those lives and death risks become both unreasonable and unnecessary, then corrective action is essential, unquote. That is directly what they sent to NASCAR. France, meanwhile, Big Bill France, not Brian France, got into a Ford Torino and ran a lap at 175 miles per hour, which he claimed was a new world record for a 59-year-old man. He told the racers that if they were convinced about the speeds, they could just slow down. That's an interesting theory. Tell a race car driver to slow down. The day before the race, Petty, Bobby Allison, Leroy Yarborough attempted to get France to at least slow the cars down, and according to an account in a number of different people, France told 3 drivers, you guys are trying to form a union? If you're scared, go home, unquote. That's what he told drivers. That's an interesting thing that NASCAR had. That's how NASCAR was run back in the 50s and 60s. It was one man controlling everything. And despite what you think, NASCAR is very much run like that today. Yes, you have different people working around you with organizations and with officials and chairmen of this and chairmen of that and directors of this. But what it all boils down to, the France family still very much owns NASCAR, still very much controls NASCAR, and will, as far as I'm concerned, always control NASCAR. And for the better part of 60 years, they've done a fantastic job of it. But for the most part, when they've done a good job, there's been some questionable decision-making, and the Teamster thing in 69 was one of them. There was just not good things going on. You go back to 1961, a Teamster leader named Jimmy Hoffa, Jimmy Hoffa, and NASCAR star Curtis Turner tried to create the Federation of Professional Athletes, which is a union that predominantly featured NASCAR drivers. The Teamsters offered loans to save the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which, oh, by the way, was in the verge of bankruptcy and not being finished, period, because of massive costs to actually build that racetrack. They got it built, due in part to the Teamsters, and NASCAR has held races there for the better part of, well, ever since 1962, 63, roughly. So it's been kind of a good run for them. But Big Bill did one simple thing. He took Turner and suspended him for life. For life. And it's kind of messed up because in 1961, you have massive problems. You look at that era, you had multiple drivers dying on the racetrack. I don't mean getting hurt. I literally mean dying. NASCAR lost its champion and one of its superstars in the course of months. Months! They lost Fireball Robert to a fire on the racetrack, and a few months before that, they lost Curtis Turner's, one of his racing buddies, life out on the racetrack, due to a head injury at Riverside, of all things. You know who that was? Who were the Gold Dust Twins? I dare you to tweet that. Google it if you have to. I don't care. Google it. Tweet it to me at the Alan Bailey. I want to hear from you on that one. But NASCAR was going through a terminal time because you had a lot of people getting hurt, getting killed out on the racetrack, and frankly, NASCAR team owners didn't have these giant pensions. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar organizations like they are today. No, they were doing this all out of pocket, and they were barely scraping by some of these teams, and NASCAR, frankly, was hogging a lot of the profits and a lot of the money, and didn't really let that money filter down, period. Some drivers basically were told about this, saying that the drivers would be offered benefit plans, including pensions, insurance, and scholarships for their children of drivers who passed away in crashes or on-track incidences. Sounds like a really good thing. Unions are 50-50. Some unions are great, others are really stupid, and others are completely unfair and cause headaches, but for the most part, unions are good. And I say that from a completely unbiased opinion. I am not in a union. I was in a union once when I was 18 years old and worked at a supermarket. Had a bad experience on that, but for the most part, honestly, unions are a good thing. They save lives and they help people on the long run. Short run, they're a bit of a headache, admittingly, with paperwork, laws, and other things, but for the most part, it's a good thing. And everything sounded great on paper until Big Bill came in with his big boots and basically put a stop to it, telling racers of the day, quote, "I will use a pistol to enforce it. I have a pistol and I know how to use it," unquote. France also issued a statement at the time back in 1961 saying, quote, "I'm not quite sure yet if it's just a planned foolishness, stupidity, or advice that makes these boys associated with movements which can only hurt and degrade our sport and injure the people and organization that helped grow them," unquote. Keep in mind, Big Bill brought NASCAR from a time when we were racing on a beach in Daytona where people were sneaking onto the race course to watch the race illegally, by the way, and the promoter would run out with the pursuit without actually paying any of the racers or officials. He took it from that era of bootleg and shady business deals in back alleys to actually forming an organization, forming a points-paying playoff, and actually putting on a show and competing with football, baseball, basketball, tennis, whatever. He did that. We, as racing fans here in America, owe Big Bill a great, great debt of gratitude, truly. However, NASCAR was very much his baby, and he did not want to give up control for anything. You listen to Brian France Saturday in the Media Center at Daytona International Speedway, which, by the way, the France family owns the company that owns the Daytona International Speedway, hint, hint. France was talking about our stockholders. This might be crazy, but NASCAR is a business. It's owned by a group of people, predominantly Brian France and the France family, predominantly. But there are other people who own stakes in NASCAR. No, you can't go buy 2 shares of NASCAR on the stock market today. No, because you'd have to talk to Brian France and convince Brian to actually let you buy into this deal. But he's never going to do that because it's his world. We're all living in it, like it or not. And while that's a great thing, I like the fact that we've had longevity, 60-plus years in NASCAR. It's a great, great, great run. You need to loosen the reins. You need to actually let these unions, these associations, like the the RTA, as it's currently being formed by these 9 race teams, and it's still being tooled and worked out. We need to let it develop. We need to see what it is. But it's going to be very interesting because once this association develops with these NASCAR Cup Series owners, it'll either go 2 ways. NASCAR will work with them. Our sport will get better. Great. NASCAR works with team owners already. You're just going to have more organization and hopefully more meetings between NASCAR team owners and NASCAR. That's great. It's either going to go that way or it's going to go in a slightly darker way. The slightly darker way will basically be NASCAR saying, well, guess what? And I'm going into my NASCAR voice here, so forgive me. But basically NASCAR could go, well, I got some bad news for y'all. Chip Ganassi Racing, Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Michael Waltrip, Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, Penske. Got some bad news for y'all. I'm not going to let y'all compete in NASCAR no more. Your cars can compete, but y'all banned for life. Y'all want your cars be racing on Sunday. Y'all better get out of that there union, as y'all call it. But NASCAR, that's not what it is. It's an association. Well, that don't matter to us. You need to get out of it because we control everything. We rich. Don't know if you know. We control over 65% of all the racetracks that NASCAR run on. That's why we run on so many mile-and-a-half programs. I don't know if you know, but we own a lot of them. And basically, we do what we want because it's our show, and you're just lucky enough to be in it. You won't. I'll penalize you, and I'll pull your cars out on the racetrack, and I'll go ahead and just find any old reason at all to penalize you and to keep your drivers off that racetrack. But NASCAR, that's unfair. How do we... That makes no sense. We just want to make things better for our organization and for our costs. We want to try to keep our costs low. That way we can put on a better show for you. Well, that don't matter to us. It sounds like you want more than money from us, and it sounds like you want to do things we don't want to do. So, because of that, we're going to just go ahead and just not let you do that. So, get on out of your union and go ahead and get on back to racing the way we says, and don't have any more of those ideas, as you call them. We're living in the past, and we just going to be here all day. But NASCAR, it's not a union. We don't work for you. We're an association. We're independently contracted. We don't do that. Well, that don't matter for us. If it had it our way, you'd work for us, and you basically do, even though you don't own a paycheck from us. But you kind of do when you go ahead and you cash that check there for that there prize money, and you do give us money, a whole lot of money. We like it when you give us the money. But no, y'all ain't gonna be racing unless you're there out of your union. NASCAR, it's not a union. It's an association. Don't matter to us. Union, association, group. Hell, we don't care nonetheless. Just get the hell out of it and get back to racing the way we says. Otherwise, you ain't gonna be racing no more. Fine, NASCAR will disband. That's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be two ways. NASCAR's gonna agree and say, yeah, it's great, it's awesome, and they're gonna work with them. Or they're basically gonna say, nope, sorry. Chip Ganassi, Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Michael Waltrip, Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, and Team Penske, you're parked. Have fun. All of your teams, all of your drivers are banned from NASCAR. We'll see ya. And all of the lower teams and all of the nationwide teams that are not affiliated with those teams are going to be basically thrown into the Cup Series, and we're going to see a bunch of half-ass racing, frankly. We're going to see guys like Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon go ahead and say, well, thanks, guys, but we're going to go ahead and drive for these NASCAR Nationwide Series teams that are now thrown into Cup cars because NASCAR needs to put on a show, and you're never going to know the difference. The only difference is that the guys who are currently winning aren't going to keep winning. That's what it could come down to. Mark my words, we could see this whole thing blow over in a matter of months. We could see nothing come of it at all. What's more than likely is you're not going to hear a whole lot from the RTA anytime soon, other than this press release. And then in about a year and a half, you're going to see a press release saying that the RTA has been disbanded because of lack of involvement or lack of point, saying something along the lines of NASCAR works well with its current owners, and we all meet anyway. We did no longer see a point for the RTA to exist. In which case, NASCAR has won. NASCAR controls everything. You are lucky to be here. That's how it could go. It's going to be interesting to see how NASCAR handles this one. They're staying out of it because they're trying to figure out what the hell the point of it is. I am as well, because frankly, they're very, well, we don't know about the whole thing. Robert Kaufman is, I don't want to call him a shady businessman because he's not. He's a reputable businessman who's made lots of money. He's worth over $1 billion with a B, and he knows racing. He's a race enthusiast, and he knows money, and he's done a lot of deals that have made him money, so he knows how to make a penny, and he knows how to save a penny. So he's clearly got a motive here, whether it's to save money, make money, or something along those lines, who knows. But we'll see what the TRA has to say about NASCAR racing and what Ganassi, Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Michael Waltrip, Richard Childress, Richard Petty, Roush Fenway, Stuart Haas, and Team Penske have to do with it. We'll see in the near future. Hopefully it won't affect the on-track racing, but it probably will. We'll see what happens, in all honesty. We'll go ahead and we'll step aside here. We'll get the Furious 5 from Daytona here in this next segment. When we come back, though, we will talk about Brian France's State of the Union. And what's very interesting, they've known about this RTA for about a month now. They informed NASCAR roughly a month ago about the RTA, RTA, and we'll go ahead and break it down. What's very interesting is one of the questions that Brian France was asked Saturday, before this was made public to the media or to race fans, that basically he was asked about new Cup team owners and reducing the high cost, and his answer at the time didn't sound suspicious, but now it has a very different tone to it. So we'll take you back into the media center. We'll hear from Brian France and get his State of the Sport address mid-season edition. Don't go anywhere. It's the Pit Pass, your personal pass for everything NASCAR, right here on ARN.
This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
Okay, so let's say that you're trying to build a website for free on one of these website builders. You go ahead and spend hours uploading your personal information and all of the photos that you've taken of your products, only to find out that you can't bring a .com onto that website without paying a huge fee. And you can't remove those ads without paying a huge fee. And you can't remove all of those pesky "this website was built for free" buttons without paying a huge fee. By the time you've paid all these fees, you've paid thousands of dollars in order to remove all of these pesky ads. Why go through all the hassle? Why spend all of those hours doing it yourself? Go ahead and log on to ApolloAesthetics.com, not only to request a quote to build your brand new website and to see a rendering of what your website could look like, but in order to set up services like email, hosting, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts, and a whole lot more. That is Apollo Aesthetics and ApolloAesthetics.com.
The Furious Five!
Yeah, the Furious Five.
Furious 5, huh?
Furious 5.
Now it's time for the Furious 5 right here on ARN. And at Daytona, you knew it was going to get crazy, you knew it was going to get wild, and oh, by the way, it was very, very wet. And that is where we will begin. We will start with number 5.
It's been a long career, and we all hate in the NASCAR community that it had to come to an end, but we wish you the best tonight on your final broadcast. We thank you so much, not only for being with us, but everything you've given to NASCAR over the years, from a media perspective, from a fan's perspective, and as Wally pointed out, for all the drivers. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you guys for all your help, and consider you good friends.
Number 4.
Oh, we got trouble. I think it's raining. It's raining over there.
It is raining on the back straightaway.
Over the racetrack.
What happened?
Just all of a sudden,
Richardson Jr.
Look at the racetrack. Look at all the cloudbursts. It's not even the whole backstretch. It's just halfway down the backstretch. See Mike Bliss, just all of a sudden, then you can see the rooster tails of these cars, and they're going every direction.
I almost thought that Mike felt the rain and was trying to pull over, and as he did that, the car cut loose and went sideways.
I don't really know that there's words to properly describe it. We had no idea it was raining. The spotter caught it right as we come off turn 2 and saw it. I'm a little disappointed with all the technology we have and spotters around the racetrack that there wasn't a caution thrown, but that's not my call to make.
Number 3.
Oh, here we go.
Trouble. That's Casey Kane that goes sideways. Joey Logano nowhere to go.
Oh, my. Half the field is
grass. The big one at Daytona has happened at lap 97.
That is the huge one at Daytona.
Kyle Busch rolls upside down.
The 16 got into the 5 a little bit too hard and just turned him. And man, what talk about getting piled up.
I saw the 5 turn sideways across the field there, and then all chaos ensued thereafter, and the grass is so wet, my stuff was already in, and it started turning right and going back up the racetrack.
Just having a good old time over here. Just hanging around. Okay, just stay buckled up. Let them get you booked over here.
Just felt like a slow carnival ride, but I guess that's fitting for the 4th of July weekend, but not here in Daytona.
Number 2.
Can he hang on? Will the fuel last to the finish line? Here they come to the checkers. Casey Kane on the outside lane. 3 wide to the win at Daytona. Wow, what a finish. In February, Regan Smith won by 13 one-thousandths of a second. Casey Kane just won by 20 thousandths of a second.
And number 1.
He's being black flagged. Apparently some debris coming off of his car.
Slow. Debris for rain.
You heard it there. Caution 7 times today, this one for rain. And the rain came at the perfect time for Eric Almirola, who was out front
Finally, we get a huge thunderstorm, and NASCAR says we are done today. Almirola gets the win.
30 years to the weekend that Richard Petty won his 200th win is really, really special. The good Lord was looking out for us today. We had a really fast car nonetheless, but I'll take him any way we can get him, man. We're going to be in the chase.
The Furious Five! Yeah, the Furious Five.
Furious 5, huh?
Furious 5.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hammond alongside NASCAR driver David Reagan.
When it comes to tire safety, nothing is more important than your tire's air pressure.
Just like a pit stop, checking your air pressure takes just a few moments.
And those few moments will not only keep you and your family safe on the road, it can also help save you money.
Properly inflated tires can improve gas mileage, which will save you money at the pump.
So be tire smart and make sure your tires are properly inflated.
Learn more at betiresmart.org. A message from the Rubber Manufacturers Association.
Live from the Pit Pass Racing Studios in Southern California, once again, Alan Beatty.
Hey Alan, by any chance was Brian France sitting on a porch, swinging a chair, drinking sweet tea, and talking to you about the good old days when he was in the media center? I don't know. And the fact that you're insinuating that he sounds like a former slave owner is kind of bad, but it's kind of an inept description, actually. Kind of, sort of, not really. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, he was talking about, obviously, the, I don't know if you want to call it a union. It's not a union. It's technically an alliance by definition, or an association. But he was talking about that. That came up. But something that was definitely discussed in the State of the Sport address, the midseason State of the Sport address that Brian France gave in the Media Center on Saturday, was the Kyle Busch issue, which is what I refer to it as, but what others refer to it as is Cup drivers in other series. And he had this as far as talking about if NASCAR is actually going to step in and actually create a limit as far as which Cup driver, or how many times a Cup driver can run in Nationwide and in trucks.
Well, that's always a question, right? When a Cup driver gets in and has a lot of success, Mark Martin did that for a long time in the Nationwide, and there's always that balance. But where we usually come out on that is that the younger drivers gain valuable experience, even if somebody gets on a run and tends to win more events than is normal. So we try to balance that out, but we lean on the side of the greater experience for the younger drivers to get a chance to compete against, and also for our fans to want to watch, some of the elite drivers, not just on Sunday. So we tend to let the events unfold the way they unfold.
Okay. They like the fact that Cup drivers are down there because, frankly, it sells tickets. Nobody cares about the Nationwide Series. Nobody cares about the Truck Series, which is sad because you've got great racing and great drivers down there, but sponsors aren't there. Viewership isn't there. TV ratings aren't there. Fans aren't in the stands for those series, which is sad and unfair, but, frankly, the only way that they survive is by Cup drivers being down there. It boils down to money. Always boils down to money, no matter what they say. Here's what's interesting. Given what we know now about the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series team owners forming the RTA, this question and answer becomes a little interesting. France was asked about new Cup owners coming in and about eliminating the high cost for the Cup owners. He replied with this.
Well, I'd agree with that, and I think that's part of when we talk about rules packages that get us better racing. We're also talking about lowering the barrier to entry. When we talk about the engine issue, which we talked about, lowering horsepower or whatever we're going to do, we're also talking about making sure that that engine is relevant to a new manufacturer who may at this situation, in the current situation, we're not. So wherever you turn and whatever policies that we're trying to do, and we don't always get this right, and some of these are they're all of them are complicated, and some of them take a long time to turn around and get things in the proper order that we want. But lowering the cost of racing, getting parity where teams can come in and have success, and in making ourselves more relevant to manufacturers and partners is all part of the NASCAR business model. It's slow and it's hard, but and it's gotten more complicated. That's why we're tackling the rules packages in the manner that we are. I was just in an hour-long presentation by Gene Stephanician, and it was remarkably different talking about the rules of the future on all of this stuff. It was all science, all what really costs, what really can work and give us the best outcomes in terms of, giving more drivers an opportunity to race hard, compete well, all those things that we were chasing and striving to all the time. There was no armchair discussion or a hunch that this might be a good direction for us to go. It's very, very analytical, and that's exactly why we brought him in, and that's exactly why we're resourcing whatever he needs to be successful, and we're gonna make a lot of progress as fast as we can.
Go back to Jerry.
How can we make more money? Is basically what was said there. Like you can jolly it up and you can talk about whatever you want, but it's basically let's make more money. I want more money. Can we make more money? How can we make more money? I think I know how we can make more money. Let's make more money. It's weird. But the issue that we talked about last week on the Pit Pass about merchandise row changing and that whole situation changing was brought up, and France talked about this, bringing new merchandise in, better quality merchandise in, but lowering the cost to them and their bottom line.
We are looking at that, and that's one of the benefits we have is with the licensing trust that got formed a couple of years ago. It allows us to look at that more carefully, and we really want to, merchandise, have higher quality merchandise available in more places, and make it more convenient for our fans. And just how that gets done, the tracks and the teams and everybody else will come together and figure that out. But we do think there's probably some newer, better ways that we can merchandise to our fans.
Yeah, there is. There's definitely some things that NASCAR can do to make things better. The fact that you're charging $30 for the same hat that Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Danica Patrick, Jimmy Johnson, all these other drivers are wearing is a little asinine. A hat costing $30 is ridiculous, period. I don't care what your bottom line is. That's ridiculous to the average race fan, period. The fact that you're selling a t-shirt that just so happens to have the driver's name on it, not a sponsor, not multiple colors, but just the name, Danica Patrick, or Jimmy Johnson, or Dale Earnhardt Jr. on a shirt, the fact that it costs $35, $40 is ridiculous. You can go to Walmart or Target and you can get a shirt that says Dale Earnhardt Jr. for about $15, $20. I'd rather do that. I don't care if it's the one that is being worn by the drivers. I'd rather just get a random shirt that has a name on it and save the $15. Sorry. That's something NASCAR needs to look into. Something they also was brought up was taking away race weekends, and at what point does bad attendance become so much of an issue that NASCAR actually steps in and says, well, maybe we should take this race weekend away. France had this to say.
Well, we don't have a timetable on that, and we don't like to think of it that way. We like to think that, historically important events work themselves out over time. And, and some of that is on us, too. I mean, we've got to, constantly figure out how to make, our racing tighter, better. I mean, that's why we're doing, why I've spent so much time today telling you that we are zeroed in on that. And so, and I think that's because we don't put a timeline on that. We're working with our track operators, the ones that have more challenges than others, and we'll just have to work through it and try to get a good outcome.
It's interesting. He went on to talk about the 2015 schedule and it got interesting very quickly.
It's a unique time because we're starting with a new television partner coming obviously next year. There's been some weather issues, as you well know, in the last several years at Bristol, as an example, and then some other things that we would naturally look at as we go along in the schedule. And now that the chase format is changed, there's additional interest to move from one place to another. So there'll be a robust discussion that will be, for those reasons, a more comprehensive look at what the best schedule will look like. I don't have any of the details today. We'll be releasing that in September, but it's fair to say that there's a robust discussion within the stakeholders to come up with, the best schedule that we can for 2015 and beyond.
That is the goal, is to create a great schedule. And given the new chase format with the 3 races, the resets, and the fact that you have one race that is more or less now NASCAR's Super Bowl, quote unquote, which is how some media members are describing it as, with the final race determining the championship. It's pivotal now to create a brand new schedule. I would take the 10 races that we see in the chase, and I'm dead serious when I say this, wipe them out. Totally get rid of all 10 of those races, go to 10 brand new venues, and change it every single year. That's what needs to happen. That's what NASCAR needs to do. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. Will that last race change in 2015? Well, if you're to believe Brian France, probably not.
I know when you talk to the Ford people and you talk to people at ISC at Homestead, they want to do whatever makes sense for that sponsorship. So that while yes, it's obviously for the finale down in Homestead, they are they're partners with us in every event. So there's nothing to preclude a change or a directional change down the road. But historically, we've liked the fact that to do it in South Florida, the weather is great that time of year, obviously. It's a good market for us. And the track, and this is an important thing, is by any definition the best mile-and-a-half track that the drivers believe that they have that they can really race hard and compete hard. And that matters too, right? That's a very important thing. So when you factor all those things in, we're going to be in Homestead for the foreseeable future.
I like Homestead. I really do. It's a great race facility. I don't think that it's a great idea to do that, though. I really don't. I think that you need to change that last race up. And from a business standpoint and from a marketing standpoint and a sales standpoint, it makes sense to be in a larger market. I'm a little biased probably because I live out here in California, but I truly believe you should move that final race from Homestead to California. Reason being, around that time of the year, weather's not an issue. Weather's never an issue out here in California, Southern California. If you look at the Auto Club Speedway, it can more than accommodate the championship. It can more than accommodate the fans. It can more than accommodate 3 series at once out at the racing facility. And if the last 4 seasons have been proven accurate, then we have the best racing of the year out here in Southern California. Why wouldn't you save that for the very last race? Why wouldn't you want your last race to be in the number 2 media market in the country? Huh? That makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Add a second race for California and give them the last race. It makes the most sense. It really does. You're out here in Los Angeles. You're in the number 2 media market in the country. The racing is incredible. The fans come out in droves, and they have for the last few seasons out here. The fact that it's the last race will up the ticket sales, will up your ratings, and the fact that weather's not an issue, unlike South Florida, will be even better. Weather's not an issue in South Florida, Brian? Really? Let's look at this last weekend in Daytona. You're sitting in the media center at Daytona knowing this race is not going to happen tonight because it's going to rain. And you're telling people that in South Florida, well, weather's never an issue. Always weather's great that time of the year down there. It's Florida. Wait 5 minutes, it'll be raining. Wait another 5 minutes, it'll be sunny and 70. Wait another 5 minutes, there'll be a hurricane blowing through. Weather's always an issue in Florida. The last 3 times, or excuse me, the last 5 times we've been down in Florida for race weekends at Daytona and Homestead, weather has been an issue. And you're honestly sitting there saying, well, weather's not an issue down when we go to South Florida because the Ford folks pay me to say that it's not an issue. I swear to you, I have a friend out here in California who refers to Jim Buss as Tommy Boy Buss. If anybody is the Tommy Boy of NASCAR, it's Brian France. This guy, honestly, if you write a check to Brian France, he will honestly sit there and tell you anything. He will sit there and convince you that the sky is orange if you write him a check for any amount, $5. He'd sit there and argue it with him. Yeah, he would. He's that oblivious and that honestly manipulative. So, ugh. And speaking of which, he recently let go of a number of NASCAR employees, NASCAR officials, both here in Los Angeles, in Charlotte, in New York, and in Texas, reorganizing and reevaluating NASCAR's chain of command and their office personnel. He had this to say about firing a bunch of innocent people.
It's always difficult when you change things around and you combine some things, departments, or you change direction a little bit. And that's kind of where we are with what happened recently. But we're on a nice, steady ground, and we're sponsorship is coming back for us, thankfully.
Liar.
It was obviously a hard hit in the recession. So there's
Liar.
The business is sound, and we're going forward.
Liar. This guy is just so full of it. I mean that truly. He's sitting there saying, "Well, it was hard. My sponsorship's coming back." You're losing a bunch of sponsors, dude. Nationwide is saying, "Sorry, we don't want to do business with you. We'd rather put all of our eggs in the Dale Earnhardt Jr. basket than do any further business with NASCAR." That's what they're saying when they're saying that they don't want to do business with you. But well, blah 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 blah. We blah 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 blah. You notice how he stutters a lot? Brian France, he's blah 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 blah. He's like one of those minions, except with a slow processor. Blah 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 la la la. Just very slow and not intelligent. It's because he's trying to formulate how he can lie his way out of the next question. It's bad, Brian. You just stop lying, pal. I'd honestly respect you a lot more as a person, as a human being, as a sport, if you honestly just stood up there and said, we're broke. NASCAR ratings are low. They're coming back a little bit, but they've been bad. Attendance has been bad. We're taking seats out of our racetracks because we can't sell them anymore. We were barely able to sell them before. Now we really can't sell them. So we had to fire people because I needed my yearly bonus, and so did our stockholders. So we decided to axe a bunch of people in our organization to pay for those bonuses. I feel good about that decision because my bonus wasn't affected by it. Arrgh. That's basically what he was saying in a nutshell. I decoded it there for you. I took it out of Brian France language in order for humans to actually understand it. So there you go. That's going to do it for this edition of the Pit Pass. Check us out on Shifting Gears Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on ARN and ARNrace.com. For everybody here at the Pit Pass and the American Racing Network, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.
Going head
Broadcasting from the ARN Racing Studios in Southern California, ARN, Los Angeles. This is ARN, the American Racing Network.